Hello everyone, welcome back to the Analyst by Vajiram and Ravi, dated 29th March 2026. Today again we will be discussing some important topics that has appeared in today's The Hindu and the Indian Express newspapers which are relevant for your examination. In the initial two topics, we have included two mains practice questions which will be useful for your upcoming mains examination. So in the analysis section, under our first topic, we will look into various aspects of sugarcane industry in India. After that, in our second topic, we will look into various dimensions of World Trade Organization or WTO. Thereafter, keeping in mind the upcoming prelims examination 2026, we will discuss 5 important prelims pointers that will be highly useful for your upcoming examination. So stay tuned. So let's start with the first topic, that is state of sugarcane industry in India. The context of this topic is that recently the Parliamentary Standing Committee on Consumer Affairs and Food and Public Distribution flags that there has been 32 times increase in the sugarcane arrears. So whenever a farmer is selling their sugarcane to the sugar mills, these sugar mills crush those sugarcane and ultimately they produces the sugar or other byproducts which are coming from the sugarcane like molasses, bagasse, etc. They are being sold in the market by the sugar mills. Ethanol that is being produced with the help of the byproducts coming from the sugarcane. And whatever the money that these sugar mills actually raise from the market by selling sugar or other byproducts, ultimately with the help of that money, they pay back to the farmer. Okay. Now, what is the money or the amount or the price at which the sugar mills will be buying the sugarcane from the farmer? It is the fair and remunerative price or FRP which is recommended by the CACP, Commission for Agriculture Cost and Prices, and ultimately it is approved by Cabinet Committee on Economic Affairs which is headed by Honorable Prime Minister of India. So FRP is the price at which sugar mills are buying sugarcane from the farmers. Also, there is a state advised price or SAP which is generally announced by the state, which is over and above the FRP or the fair and remunerative price. So SAP is the price which differs from state to state because this is the state price, state advised price, which is the complete domain of the particular state, that at what price they are willing or they are thinking that sugar mills should buy the sugarcane. So SAP is the state advised price which is announced over and above the FRP, and this is the price at which sugar mills are buying the sugarcane from the farmers. And if there is no SAP which is announced by the particular state, so this is the FRP at which the sugar mills will be buying sugarcane from the farmer. But the problem here is that FRP and SAP is announced keeping in mind the remuneration of the farmer. But whenever there will be too much of supply in the market of the sugar, that will lead to drop in the prices of the sugar in the market. But what we see that in the India, whatever the sugar mills, what the sugarcane that they are producing at the price, whether it is FRP or SAP, ultimately when they are selling the sugar, they will try to recover the cost that they are actually giving to the farmer, whether it is FRP or the SAP. That is one of the reason in India, the sugar prices are generally higher as compared to the prices of the sugar in the global markets. And when we have already fulfilled the domestic consumption demand, and now if we want to export our sugar in the foreign market, but our sugar prices are very high, and that actually reduces the competitiveness of our sugar in the market. And because of this, we are not able to export our sugar. Sugar mills are not able to export their products in the global market, and that directly impacts their revenue. And because of a hit on their revenue, they are not able to pay back the money that they owe to the farmers on account of the sale of the sugarcane that was done by the farmers to these sugarcane mills. So when these sugarcane mills are not able to sell their produce, they are not earning money. So they are also not able to pay back to the farmers from whom they have bought the sugarcane. And that is one of the reasons there has been a consistent arrears that we have witnessed with regard to the sugarcane farmers. Arrear is the amount of money that was not paid on the time and that is due and that will be probably paid in the future. And this particular topic is related to your GS paper 3, agriculture marketing, agricultural pricing, buffer stock and food security. Now we'll try to understand the whole status of the sugarcane sector, and we'll start with the basics. So this sugarcane, this is the crop of the sugarcane, you can see, and it is a tall perennial grass and grown in tropical as well as the subtropical regions, and it is a year round crop that it requires around 10 to 12 months to complete one cycle, starting from sowing of the sugarcane and ultimately harvesting of the sugarcane. And the climate that it requires is warm, hot and humid. So when we have already seen that it is more suitable in tropical and subtropical regions, so the temperature will be obviously warm and humid. So it requires warm, hot and humid climate, and since it is a crop that takes 10 to 12 months, so ultimately it will be also facing the winter season as well as the frost. But that frost is very fatal for the sugarcane. It can directly impact the overall yield of the sugarcane. And then the temperature requirement of the sugarcane, it requires 21 to 27 degrees Celsius of temperature, and around 75 to 150 centimeter of rainfall is required by the sugarcane. Also, it is a water intensive crop, and that is one of the reason you see the sugarcane that is being produced in the northern India, especially in the states like Punjab, Haryana, Western UP, etc. When it is a very high water intensive crop and natural sources are not able to fulfill the irrigational needs of the sugarcane, generally we see tube wells, etc. are being used to provide irrigation to the sugarcane, and that actually leads to lowering of the groundwater table. Also, if you talk about the top producers of the sugarcane, as per the data from Economic Survey of 25-26, Uttar Pradesh is the largest producer of sugarcane. And then we have the Maharashtra and Karnataka, which are the other large producers. Also, in the last few years, there has been a healthy competition that is going on between the Uttar Pradesh and the Maharashtra with regard to the sugarcane production. Maharashtra has seen a very proper development, very good development of the sugarcane industry because of the proper cooperative sector that is available there, which helps in sharing of the resources, sharing of the inputs, etc. That also ultimately leads to better profitability to the farmer, and that has ultimately helped in expansion of the sugarcane industry in the Maharashtra. If you talk about the global position, India is having the largest area under the sugarcane cultivation, but we are the second largest producer after Brazil. If you talk about the sugarcane, as well as we are not the largest producer for sugar, but we are the largest consumer. Okay? This is a map with the help of which you can also remember the total production, sugarcane producing states and the production that they are doing in the 2025. You can see UP is the largest producer. And there is also regional differences that we can see with regard to the sugarcane. In the northern India, states like Uttar Pradesh, Punjab, Haryana, etc., what they are producing, generally there is a lower yield that we witness because there is a shorter crushing season due to subtropical climate that is there. What happens whenever there will be increase in the temperature, whenever the heat will increase, it directly impacts the sucrose content in the sugarcane, and that will directly impact the overall sugar that we will be getting from the sugarcane. So because of more subtropical climate in the northern region, the overall yield is less because of the crushing season being shorter. Whereas in the southern India, we have the higher yield because of the favorable tropical climate as well as longer growing season that is there. Also, whenever there will be frost-like conditions that will be witnessed in the northern India, apart from the heat content, whenever winter comes or the frost will come, that will also directly impact the overall yield. And in the northern India, generally we see temperature differences are comparatively higher as compared to the southern India, where the temperature differences are low. So there is a longer crushing season that we see in the southern India, and that actually impacts the overall yield, and we see higher yield. Along with that, there is a proper development of cooperative sector in the southern India, especially in the Maharashtra. That has also helped in better expansion in the southern India, especially in the Maharashtra. It is a water intensive crop which requires a lot of water, and that has also led to decrease in the groundwater table, especially in the northern states. Also, if you talk about the byproducts and the uses, so bagasse, which is a fibrous residue that comes from the crushing of the sugarcane itself, and that is used as biofuel. That is also used for production of the heat and electricity. Also molasses, which is used for the alcohol production during the heat that is provided to the sugarcane juice. There is this molasses that comes out, and that is used for alcohol production. That is also used for the livestock feed, and that also helps in ensuring that there is a proper support that is coming from the sugarcane industry, from the livestock sector also. And this is what we were discussing, FRP and SAP. So fair and remunerative prices is the mandated minimum price that sugar mills are required to pay farmers for their sugarcane. And CACP recommends, and this is approved by the Cabinet Committee on Economic Affairs. Whereas some of the major sugarcane producing states, they announces a price which is over and above the FRP, and that is your state advised price or SAP, and that is actually determined and that is being announced and approved by the individual state government, and generally this is over and above the FRP or fair and remunerative price. Now if you talk about the challenges that are associated with the sugarcane growth or sugarcane production in India. First of all, there is a long gestation period that we witness for the sugarcane crop. It is a year the round crop that it requires around 10 to 12 months to harvest. And when there is a parcel of land or there is a farm that is already utilized for the sugarcane production itself, it will be stuck for 10 to 12 months. We can't go with the production of any other crop, or we can't grow any other crop, because this particular sugarcane will itself take 10 to 12 months. So it actually effectively locks that land for 10 to 12 months, and that also limits the chances for the crop diversification, etc., that farmers can actually do. Also, high capital requirement, the intensive land preparation that is required for the sugarcane, the deep tilling and the leveling that is used, that leads to an additional cost. The costly inputs, for example, sugarcane sets that are used as the bud chips or the seeds for the production of the sugarcane, the heavy fertilizer, manure, etc., that are needed at the different stages of the growth of the sugarcane, the consistent water that is required by the sugarcane crop, all that leads to an cost to the farmer, and that actually leads to a high capital requirement which is needed by the farmer. Farmer must have a huge amount of capital, without which they will not be able to become profitable. Also, high labor and the transport cost. For example, it leads to labor intensive harvesting. The generally harvesting of the sugarcane in most of the states, especially in the northern states, is done manually itself, which is a labor intensive process, that is a time consuming process, and that further leads to an additional cost to the farmer. Also, weather issues, for example, rain or slush or dryness, that might directly impact the sucrose content, that might directly impact the crushing season, and that might directly impact the overall remuneration and the profitability of the farmer. So with the climate change that is happening, with the other kind of calamities or the local level disasters which are being witnessed, for example, in the month of September 2024, there has been a case of untimely incessant rainfall. There has been too much of differences that we are witnessing with regard to the monsoon and the climate that we are seeing. So because of all these the issues, there has been an uncertainty with regard to the remuneration and the profitability and the earnings of the farmers. More than that, farmer must transport their sugarcane from the farms ultimately to the sugar mills. That also leads to an additional cost to the farmer. With a lack of proper suitable measures for the transportation, lack of proper road, lack of proper infrastructure, all that leads to additional cost. Unviable sugar exports that are there. For example, high domestic production cost is very high as compared to the global prices. That when government has already mandated that there will be the FRP at which the sugar mills must or they should buy the sugarcane from the farmers. Now these sugar mills should pay that much of FRP to the farmers, but how they are going to recover the FRP, or in what way the sugar mills will be able to get the FRP? It will be with the help of the sugar that they will be selling ultimately in the market. It will be with the help of the byproducts that they will be selling in the market. If that sugar is not as such in demand, if the sugar that is being produced, if that has yielded very low prices in the global market, if the byproducts were also not able to give a proper return to the sugar mills, ultimately they will find it very difficult to pay back the FRP or the SAP to the farmers. And that is one of the reasons there has been consistent delay in the payments by the sugar mills. That has also led to unprofitability to various sugar mills, and that has also led to the closure of various sugar mills. Also, there has been issue in the ethanol program. For example, the price mismatch that we witness, ethanol is often costlier than the petrol. So that also reduces the incentives for the ethanol supply as well as the blending. Also, what we see that in last few years with the climate change, there has been increase in the pest attacks, there has been increase in various kind of diseases. For example, one of the disease that directly impact the overall sugar yield and sugarcane plant is your sugarcane red rot. So all because of lack of proper knowledge with the farmers, because of lack of proper suitable measures to deal with these kind of diseases, there has been a consistent problems for the farmers with regard to the remuneration and the profitability. Okay. Then you have the major schemes for the sugarcane sector in India. For example, Sugar Development Fund, which is under the Department of Food and Public Distribution. And the major objective of the Sugarcane Development Fund is modernization and the financial support that will be provided. And it provides loans for mills. It also provides certain loans and capital needs are fulfilled for ethanol projects modernization. Then ethanol blending program, that is under Ministry of Petroleum and Natural Gas. That when we have went with 20% blending target E20, which we have already achieved, it has led to diversification of sugarcane to the ethanol also. The national biofuel policy, which also mandated that certain other products can be also used for the production of the ethanol. So when ethanol is being produced, that has also led to reduction in the needs of the oil imports. For example, in India, 85% of our oil needs are being fulfilled by the imports itself. And recently, what we have seen, the global supply chain disruptions, for example, the closure of Strait of Hormuz, which is an important route for the transportation of Indian oils. So with the disruptions that we are witnessing, there has been uncertainty or inconsistent supply of the these petroleum products also. Although government is consistently saying that there hasn't been any issue with regard to the availability of the petroleum products, we have the sufficient reserves, but there has been disruptions that we have witnessed. So because of import dependency, it was creating a problem. Also, we were paying a huge amount from our own pocket for the products or for the oil that we were buying from these countries or oil that we were importing. So it has led to reduction in the oil imports, and that is also saving our valuable forex reserves, and that has also boosted the sugar demand. Buffer stock scheme that was there to stabilize the sugar prices, that the government was creating the buffer stock of the sugar by buying from the farmers, and then whenever there will be inconsistent supply of the sugar in the market, then at that time to address the supply shocks or to address the increased demand related concerns, government can supply that sugar from the buffer stock that they have made, or in the case of any of the contingency, they can further supply that, they can further support that. Minimum selling price, which was mandated of the sugar, that was there to prevent the price crash which can be witnessed whenever there will be too much of supply in the market of the sugar, especially in the case when there is especially at the time of the harvest of the sugarcane, when there will be too much supply of the sugar. Also, it is a floor price for the sugar sales by the mills, production subsidy or the export subsidy that is provided to the sugar mills, and that helps in clearing the cane dues. Also, it is linked to the export production, and it also support the liquidity. Sustainable sugarcane initiative, this is not as such a specific scheme, rather it is by the state governments and the NGOs, and that help in increasing the productivity with the less inputs. It is also helping in shifting to better sustainable alternatives. That has also led to low water use, wider spacing, and that has ultimately led to better yield. Then ratoon management program, that is by ICAR and various states. Here again the major objective is to improve the yield of the ratoon crops. For example, scientific practices for ratoon crop cost reduction, etc. That was the main aim. So what is this ratoon? Let's try to understand that. Let's suppose this is the sugarcane plant, okay? And these are the roots of this sugarcane, okay? Now what will happen? Let's suppose after this sugarcane crop got maturity after 10, 11 or 12 months, then we will remove this much of plant, okay? So we will remove around 95 to 98% of plant, and then along with the roots we will leave at least 2% of the plant or 3% of the plant, and this is what is called as ratoon, okay? So this ratoon that is left on the soil itself, now it will be supplied with proper water, it will be supplied with proper fertilizer, and ultimately there will be a regrowth that will be coming out from this ratoon, and it will be becoming, it is going to become a full plant itself, which the farmer is going to harvest. The benefit that this ratoon cropping or stubble cropping is going to provide to the farmer: they will not need the sets or the bud chips for the sugarcane. They will also not have to start from the scratch. They will not have to prepare the land, etc. That will ultimately save the money, or that will save the input cost for the farmers. Also the crop duration will reduce, because this particular plant is already this much of there, and then regrowth will be coming, so crop duration will also be less. So these are the benefits that will be provided by the ratoon or the stubble cropping. Also this ratoon cropping is suitable, this is not suitable for all the crop, it is suitable for the crops like pineapple, cotton, etc., along with the sugarcane. Now what is the path ahead? What is the way forward for the sugarcane? There is need for diversification of revenue. For example, mills should shift from the sugar centric model. They should focus on the ethanol production, cogeneration, for example power production that can be done. They should not limit themselves only for the production of the sugar itself. For example, recently government also allowed to make the potash from the various byproducts that are coming from the sugarcane industries. So they should become the multi-activity enterprise. They should not limit themselves only to the sugarcane production. Also integrated value chain should be the focus area. For example, various byproducts like bagasse, molasses, etc., that can be utilized for other purposes, and that will lead to improved profitability. That will also promote the circular economy, that whatever the waste, etc., that is coming, that is also being utilized for better purposes. Then there is also need for ensuring farmer remuneration. For example, whenever the profitable mills will be there, when the mills will be profitable, so they will also ensure that they will have a better ability to pay back to the farmers from whom they have bought the sugarcane. As of now, sugarcane mills are in consistent losses, and that has been the reason there has been consistent delay in the payment to the sugarcane farmers. Also, Rangarajan committee recommendation, that they said that there should be revenue sharing formula that should be followed. That initially there should be a price that should be paid to the farmers, but at the later stage, whatever the other byproducts which are being sold by the sugarcane mills, the revenue that has been generated from that should also be shared with the farmers. There can be a 70-30 model, revenue sharing model, that can be utilized as per the Rangarajan revenue sharing formula. 70% should go to the farmers, 30% to the sugar mills. Also, cane price can be linked to the sugar or other byproducts value that is coming, which we were discussing, that there can be a direct initial price that can be provided when the sugarcane was sold to the farmer, but ultimately at the later stage there will be another price that will be provided. Also, price stabilization scheme. For example, if the formula based price is less than the at a reasonable level, so there will be a gap that will be funded through the dedicated fund, and that fund will be built via cess on the sugar itself. For example, here what we can say, that there was a viability, there is a funding that is being done between the difference of the price that was mandated at which the sugarcane mills will be buying, and what is the reasonable price taking into account the prices of the sugar, etc. Difference between them can be given to the sugarcane mills. For example, Bhavantar Bhugtan Yojana, there was a scheme, or price deficiency payment system, which also government has done for in some of the cases. And that was launched under the PM Asha scheme. So there can be a difference that can be provided based on the difference between formula based price and the price at the reasonable level. Okay. This was the question that was asked in 2025. Fair and remunerative price of the sugarcane is approved by. Okay. So this is approved by the Cabinet Committee on Economic Affairs. It is recommended by the Commission for the Agriculture Cost and Prices, or the CACP. Okay. And this was the mains practice question. This is the mains practice question that you people can write from this particular topic. Our next topic is WTO still relevant? The context of this topic is that India stood alone to oppose the Investment Facilitation for Development Pact or Agreement at the WTO, and this particular topic is related to your GS paper 2, important international institutions, grouping and agreements involving India and or affecting India's interests. This is also related to your GS paper 3, growth and development, trade agreements, as well as it is related to the topic of the subsidies. So before looking into the fact that what is this investment facilitation for the development and what are the concerns of India, let's try to understand some of the basics of the WTO first, or the background of the WTO. So this WTO that was established in 1995, and this was formed under the Marrakesh Agreement on 15th April 1994 after the Uruguay round of the negotiations happened between the WTO members. So we had this general agreement on trade and tariffs that was under the Bretton Woods Conference of 1944, which also led to birth of World Bank and IMF. But there was no institutional structure for tariffs and trade, and that ultimately led to a need, or that ultimately led to the birth of the World Trade Organization in 1995. And this actually succeeded this general agreement on tariff and trade, and the general agreement on tariff and trade GATT, it was focusing on the trade in goods only. Okay. Whereas this World Trade Organization is much diversified. It not only focuses on trade in goods, but it also covers the trade in services, intellectual property, etc. And the headquarters of WTO is in Geneva, Switzerland. Under this WTO, we have the ministerial conferences which are done, which is the top decision making body, and they meet biennially. They do not meet annually. Also, there is a General Council under the World Trade Organization, which is the authority that will be acting on the behalf of the ministerial conferences, which whatever the decisions that will be taken by the ministerial conferences, that will be executed properly by the General Council. And then other important institutions under this World Trade Organization, we have the dispute settlement body, we have the appellate body, etc. that ultimately looks into the various disputes that are going on between the member nations. Okay. Then if you talk about the structure of the World Trade Organization, so we have the ministerial conference, which we have just said that this is the top decision making body which meets biennially, and every 2 years they meet, and they actually comprises the trade ministers of the all member countries. For example, in India, the Ministry of Commerce and Industry is being headed by the Shri Piyush Goyal ji. He is the Commerce and Industry Minister. And this ministerial conference actually takes the major policy decisions with regard to the overall trade in goods, services, or with regard to the intellectual property rights. Also, General Council, which is the core working body of the WTO, that handles day-to-day functioning, administration, etc. They also consist of representatives of the member countries, usually the ambassadors. They are part of the General Council, and they actually works under the ministerial conference. Whatever the decisions that are taken by the ministerial conference, it actually helps in ensuring that that is taking into shape. Then there are specialized bodies under the General Council. For example, we have the dispute settlement body, which resolves the trade dispute between members whenever any members complain to the WTO that whatever the norms or the regulations or the rules of the WTO, they are not being followed by a particular member. For example, if there is a WTO's regulation, that is your most favored nation or MFN, that says that if you are extending a benefit to any one country, okay, or if you are extending, or if you are giving a support, or you are giving some kind of reduction with regard to the tariff and non-tariff to any one country, that should be extended to other countries also. There should not be any discrimination. Also, we have the trade policy review body, which reviews the trade policy of the member countries for the transparency. There are three main councils which actually operate. For example, Council for Trade in Goods, that deals with trade in goods, for example, agriculture, subsidies, etc. Council for Trade in Services, that covers services like banking, telecom, etc. Council for TRIPS, that is mainly for the intellectual property, that actually handles the IP rights, including patents, copyrights, trademarks, etc. Okay. And this WTO actually provide for the package of the agreement which sets international rules in the field of the trade. So whatever this most favored nation, sanitary or phytosanitary measures that actually looks up to the quality concerns, whatever this is being seen, that is agreed by the member countries. Also, it provides a platform for the multilateral negotiations that can happen between the countries or between developed and developing countries, with the help of which the future agreements can come that will be further implemented and that will be further accepted by all the member countries. And this also provide dispute settlement system that we have just seen, and also it is a source of information that ensures transparency in the application of the trade policy by all the members. There has been certain key WTO agreements which has been accepted or which has been implemented by the member nations. For example, we have the trade related investment measure or TRIMS that actually prohibits the investment measures that actually distort trade. For example, if there is an investment that is coming in any one particular sector, in any one particular company, which is injuring the domestic industry or which is directly impacting the competitiveness of the domestic industry, so that might be prohibited. And that actually ensures that there is no discrimination against the foreign products. Also, there is local content requirement, use of domestic inputs that was mandated by some of the countries and that was banned by the WTO. There is trade balancing requirement that is again one under the TRIMS, etc. All that comes under TRIMS. The major objective is to promote free and fair competition, that whatever the requirement is for the domestic company, they should be same for the foreign company. Also, whenever multiple foreign products are coming, there should not be any discrimination. A same level of requirement should be there for all the products. Then trade related aspects of intellectual property rights, that sets the minimum global standards for the IP protection or intellectual property rights protection. That covers the patents, copyrights, trademarks, geographical indication that gives us an idea that there is a product that is belonging to a particular geography itself and that shapes the overall quality of the product. It also provides dispute settlement mechanism under the WTO. It balances innovation versus public interest. For example, compulsory licensing, etc. that can be done in the case of public need, especially in the medical field. Then agreement on agriculture, that focuses on the agricultural trade liberalization through major three pillars, that is market access should be there, that there should be reduction in the tariffs, there should be reduction in the non-tariff measures, removal of barriers should be there so that the product can access the domestic market freely. There should be domestic support. For example, it actually limits the subsidies. There has been various subsidies like green box, amber box, as well as the blue box subsidies. Then export subsidies, for example, reduction or discipline on the export incentives, that it directly don't injure or it directly don't impact other products. If there will be a product that will be heavily subsidized for exports, then it might directly impact the competitiveness of the foreign products where a product is being exported. The other important agreements under the WTO, sanitary and the phytosanitary measures, that ensures that food safety and animal plant health, and that measures should be scientifically justified. That actually focus on the residues. For example, the mangoes which were sent by India to US, they were sent back because there were residues of the pesticides in those mangoes. So whatever the residues of fertilizer or the synthetic material is there, or microorganisms that might be there, all that is covered under the sanitary and the phytosanitary measure. And this agreement actually focuses on the point that whatever the products that are being traded, they should be completely safe for both the human as well as plant health. Also, it must be scientifically justified. No country can directly say that this product is not safe for the human consumption. General agreement on trade in services, that covers services like IT, banking, telecom, and that also promotes the liberalization of the services sector. Then general agreement on tariff and trade, that is the main or the core WTO framework for the trade in the goods. The most favored nation, that there should not be any discrimination between the member countries. National treatment, same level of treatment should be given to the foreign products or or as well as the domestic products. These are some of the agreements of the WTO. Along with that, there has been a WTO agreement on the agriculture also, which was negotiated during the Uruguay round of general agreement on tariff and trade, and that was signed in Marrakesh 1994, and it came into force in 1995, and that actually aims to liberalize agricultural trade and also to reduce the distortions related to the agricultural products trade. There are major three pillars: market access, domestic support, and the export subsidies that we have seen. And it actually talks about the subsidies under under that is allowed and that is not allowed. And it has categorized it into three colors. For example, amber box subsidies, which are trade distorting. The subsidies that directly distort the production and the trade. For example, India's MSP or means minimum support price is often debated as the amber box subsidy because it directly distort the trade, because there is a minimum price which is with the help of which the government is buying the products from the farmer. So the WTO agreement or the normal trade circumstances, normal trade rules says that the prices of the product should be according to the demand and supply. But here government itself is saying that there should be an MSP, there will be an MSP or minimum support price at which we will be buying the products from the market, from the farmers. So that is a kind of trade distorting practice which is often debated as per the developed countries and as per the member countries who takes any stand against the India in the WTO. And these subsidies must be reduced over time. The fertilizer subsidy, electricity subsidy, irrigation subsidy, that is directly impacting the price of the product. All that comes under the amber box and they are not allowed. They must be reduced over time. Blue box subsidy, that is production limiting support. For example, amber box is there, but there are certain conditions with that. For example, subsidies are allowed if the farmers limit production. For example, setting aside land, production quotas, etc. All that is the blue box subsidy. Green box subsidy, these are non-trade distorting subsidies. The subsidy that is given for research and development funding, etc. That is the green box subsidy. The subsidy for environmental protection, direct income support, without any price linkages, all that comes under the green box. Then this what we were discussing, the investment facilitation for the development agreement, okay, against which India has taken as a stand. So this was launched in 2017 by group of developing, some least developed country, and this particular agreement was mainly led by China. And this is one of the initiative to improve the global investment climate, and this is under the WTO framework. The major objective is ease of investment and business operation, streamline procedure, reduce red tape. The objective is that there should be the support that should be provided to the developing and least developed countries. And it is a plurilateral agreement that is binding on the consenting members. Focus area is on transparency and predictability, faster approval and simplified procedures, coordination among the member countries. So this is more of an agreement to boost the export, to boost the investment between the countries. So with the help of this agreement, there will be significant improvement with regard to the foreign direct investment that might go from one country to another country. It will also be enhancing the overall ease of doing business at the global level. But there has been various concerns of India that whether this particular investment might jeopardize the domestic industry or that can create some national security concerns, etc. And there has been certain exclusions under this agreement. For example, no market access commitment, no investment protection, no investor-state disputes, or no government procurement rules. What are the India's concern? First of all, non-mandated issues. For example, India is arguing that investment facilitation is not a non-trade issue. WTO mandate is limited to trade in the goods, services and IPR, so investment can't come under this. And including FDI under this agreement is without unanimous mandate is violating the Marrakesh agreement, which was only focusing on the goods, services as well as IPR. It is also leading to a threat to the multilateralism and the overall multilateral global order that we were having till now, because it works on consensus-based decision making. It is a plurilateral agreement that bypasses the consensus. Generally in the WTO, we see that whatever the agreements that will take its shape, that will be based on the consensus between the member countries. And also there is a risk of two-tier WTO. For example, powerful economies might dominate the investment, and especially in the least developed country or the developing countries. For example, Belt and Road Initiative of the China, that has led to the issues to certain countries which are in huge debt and who are finding it unsustainable to pay back the debt that China has initially extended for the infrastructure development. Also, the global south voice is weakened. Erosion of sovereign policy space. For example, there are concerns with regard to the pre-investment appeal mechanism, independent screening bodies that are there, and that may impose binding global rules on FDI. But there are domestic rules with regard to the FDI. For example, some of the rules that are automatically allowed, some of them needs permission or needs clearances from the government. So when there will be such agreement, there will be a direct rule that will be applicable for the member countries. Tactical or strategic opposition. For example, India is using this as a bargaining leverage, and the main aim is to push for the Doha development agenda issues which are still pending, which are still not finalized. The major demand of India is that there should be permanent solution to the public stock holding that India is doing. That is critical for the MSP regime, because in India around 50% of population is dependent on the agriculture. To be precise, as per economic survey 24-25, 46.1% was the employment generation by the agriculture, that is contributing around 16%. So MSME is important for the welfare, for the improvement of the life of the farmer, so we can't go away with that. Also, supporting schemes like National Food Security Act 2013, Pradhan Mantri Garib Kalyan Ann Yojana, which is providing 5 kg free food grains. So all this is supporting the idea of the food security, and for that government will have to maintain the public stock holding. And this issue is unresolved despite the 2013 Bali peace clause which was announced. If you talk about the other issues that are plaguing the World Trade Organization, the stalemate that we have seen in the trade negotiation with regard to the Doha round, the issue of the public stock holding, the de minimis level, etc., that is still pending. There is no further clarification, there is no finalization of agreement on this. Dispute settlement crisis, that is we are witnessing, that dispute settlement body which is witnessing various vacancies, and that has led to an effective dysfunction of this particular body, that body has become dysfunctional. So whatever the disputes that are there between the member countries, they are not getting resolved under the WTO. So WTO is becoming little ineffective. Trade protectionism that we are witnessing, that WTO was formed mainly to improve or to promote the overall global trade, but what we are witnessing at this point of time, the protectionism, that countries are explicitly, they are in itself announcing various tariffs. The tariffs war going on between China and US, the tariffs announced by US on most of the countries including India. So that these tariffs war are also leading to a sense that WTO is slowly and gradually becoming less effective. Lack of consensus on e-commerce, for example, rising global e-commerce trade that we are witnessing, digital trade that we are witnessing, still that is not comprehensively covered under the World Trade Organization. The developed countries are already pushing for the agreement on the e-commerce, digital trade, etc., whereas the developing countries are of view that first of all we should finalize for the pending issues, the pending issues under the Doha development agenda, etc., the pending issues under the public stock holding, agriculture, etc., and subsequently there should be a decision or the agreement that should be taken or that should be finalized on the e-commerce. Limited influence in reforming global supply chains that we have witnessed especially during the COVID-19. All these are the issues with regard to the WTO. So what are the needed reforms? What are the suggestions that with the help of which we can address the issue? First of all, there should be vacancies, whatever the vacancies that are there in the dispute settlement body, that should be filled in a time bound manner. So dispute settlement mechanism reform is the need of our. The blockage that is being done by the United States for the appointment of members, that should be done with the global pressure, with the diplomacy, with the communication, collaboration. Also, agriculture subsidies issue should be addressed, and there should be a proper and permanent solution that should be taken for the agriculture public stock holding as well as for the issue of the agriculture subsidies. Also, we should focus on improving market access for the developing countries with reduction in the barriers of the trade, with reduction in the global norms, by promoting the overall global trade, by giving the proper proper capacity building to the developing countries, by providing them with proper knowledge with the help of which they can ultimately follow the sanitary and the phytosanitary norms. Also addressing the non-tariff barriers that are there, the quality concerns, quota restrictions, etc. that are there, they should be minimized significantly. And e-commerce and digital trade is the reality of the 21st century. We should have a proper agreement on this, because now this is the need of our. And first of all, we should finalize the pending issues, and subsequently we should also take up the digital trade and the e-commerce, because slowly and gradually in this globalized world there has been significant increase in the e-commerce and the digital trade. This is a main practice question that you people can write from this particular topic. Moving towards our prelims pointers section, which we have introduced considering your upcoming prelims examination. The first topic is avalanche. The context of this topic is that there has been an unfortunate incident of avalanche near Jojila Pass, and the death toll related to that has reached 7. And this is related to your GS paper 1 important geophysical phenomena and GS paper 3 disaster management, and this has appeared in today's The Hindu page number 1. So avalanche is the mass of snow, ice, rock, soil and other materials that slides rapidly down a mountainside. It can be because of the disturbances in the layers of this snow, ice, soil, or some other earthquake like conditions, etc. can also lead to this avalanche, or whatever the geophysical phenomena that may happen, whether inside the earth or outside, that can directly impact the layers, and because of which there can be a sudden rapid movement downside, and that can directly impact the overall life on the ground. And these avalanches of rocks or soil are called as the landslides, which we generally see happening in the hilly regions as well as in the northeastern states. And snow slides are mainly the kind of the avalanches that we witness in the snow covered zones or snow covered mountains. The mechanism that it follow, for example, will be an unstable mass of snow that will break away from a slope. Okay? So there will be an unstable mass, okay, and that will break away. That what we are seeing here, it is breaking, and ultimately it will pick up speed and more snow as it moves downhill. Whenever it will be coming downside, it will take more snow from the lower levels, and ultimately a huge mass of snow will come on the ground, and that actually produces a river of snow and a cloud of icy particle that rises high into the air. And the major types of snow avalanches, okay, for example, slough avalanche, which is a small slide of dry powdery snow that occurs when the weak layers of snowpack is on the top. Slab avalanche, where weak layer lies lower down in a snowpack, and when it breaks off, it pulls off all the layer on the top of it down the slope itself. So these are the major two types of the snow avalanche. What can be the factors because of which we might see avalanche? So a fresh snowfall that will add a new layer to the snowpack, so because of which the underlying layer may become unstable, and subsequently it may come down. Or natural forces like pull of gravity, the steep slope gradient that is there, all that might also aid this. Earthquakes, which might disturb the layer, and that might also lead to avalanche. Warming temperature, with the increase in the temperature, the bond between the layers of the snow, etc. is decreasing, and that is further making it unstable. The human activities like construction, hydroelectric power projects that are there, road construction, etc. that is also leading to the seismic activities in that region, and that also leads to the avalanches. So these are the two types: slough, where the weak layer of snowpack is on the top; slab, where one weak layer lies down in a snowpack, and when it is breaking down, it is pulling all the layers on the top of it down the slope. Okay, so one layer was weak, the other layers whatever there, they are also coming down under the slab avalanche. With regard to the important mountain passes in India, why? Because we have seen Jojila Pass is there in Ladakh, which is connecting Srinagar to Leh, and that is the pass where we have seen that avalanche. Similarly, we have the Nathula Pass in Sikkim, Jalepla in Sikkim, Sipkila in Himachal Pradesh, Mana Pass in Uttarakhand, Niti Pass in Uttarakhand. Along with that, Lipu Lake in Uttarakhand, Rohtang Pass in Himachal Pradesh, Baralacha, Himachal Pradesh, Khardungla in Ladakh, Banihal Pass in JNK, Bomdila in Arunachal Pradesh. ठीक है, this might be examination. In the examination, these important passes in the state or union territories where they are, and the areas or the cities which they are connecting, that can be asked in the examination. Our next topic is e-checks, that is related to your GS paper 3, banking sector and non-banking financial companies, and this has appeared in today's The Indian Express, page number 12. So RBI is proposing this e-check system. The objective is to modernize the payment system, and that will combine the reliability of checks with the digital speed and security. Why? Because at present the physical checks are moving. So e-check is the digital version of the paper check that is filed, digitally signed, as well as this is sent online. The check truncation system that is used, where the pictures of the checks are moved, but e-check will be completely digitized. It will be generated, it will be signed, it will be sent online in the online form itself. The processing is verified like the normal check, but it is faster, it is paperless, secure, as well as trackable, and that will ensure that there is more security, there is more efficiency that we are witnessing in the transfer and the movement of the checks. There has been various other initiatives which has been taken by the Reserve Bank of India. For example, central bank digital currency, that is the form of the digital currency, and that came especially when we have seen that there has been increase in the demand as well as use of the digital currencies. That will be helping in reduction in the cash use, improvement in the payment efficiency. UPI Lite, that was introduced by the RBI, that is for the small value offline wallet payment on the UPI. Without entering the PIN, we can do these small payments. UPI 123 Pay, that is available on the keypad phones also. That is UPI for the feature phones. IVR based UPI payment will be done. It will include the non-smartphone users. Card tokenization, that will replace the card details with the tokens itself, so there will not be any need to save the card detail. That will provide more safety and security. Digital lending guidelines, for example, unified lending platform that came, that will lead to direct disbursal to the borrower. There will not be any third party pass through. Account aggregator framework, that is consent based financial data flow, that will also lead to improved credit access to the farmer, ultimately the people who are needing the credit from the different banking as well as other institutions. So these are some of the important institutions, and this e-check system that the RBI is proposing will recognize the small payment system providers. It will also explore the payment switching services. It will also lead to regulatory oversight of the digital entities. So this is the digital check which will provide safe as well as it will help in faster economic growth. Our next topic is malaria, which is related to your GS paper 2 health, and this has appeared in today's Indian Express, page number 1. Okay. So what is happening here, that in Gadchiroli district of Maharashtra, there is a pujari who was earlier doing the jhad phook, or with the help of some mantra etc. He was trying to cure various diseases. But now, after the interventions of the health officials, whatever the patients he is referring, he is getting rupees 15 for referring a patient, and if that patient is suffering from malaria, he will be getting 500 only for referring itself. Why? Because these pujaris or these persons, they have a good influence in that region, and the people who are apprehensive or who are hesitant to visit the health centers or hospitals, when this person will be promoting or this person will be compelling that person to go to the healthcare center, probably that person will go, and that will ultimately help in getting the permanent cure for the disease to the patient itself. So this is a kind of example or the case study that you can also write in the mains examination about the innovation in the service delivery or innovation in the governance. Now when we talk about the malaria, this is caused by the protozoa parasite named Plasmodium, and that is spread by the Anopheles, which is a female mosquito that causes the acute life-threatening disease. The symptoms of malaria is fever, chills, etc., and at times it can also lead to mortality. And it has been one of the major worldwide health concern. And there is a similar dengue viral infection that is transmitted to humans through the bites of infected mosquito, mainly the Aedes aegypti mosquito. There are certain diseases where the mosquito is the vector itself. For example, Zika virus Aedes aegypti, Aedes albopicet is the mosquito vector which can cause Zika. Similarly for dengue, Aedes aegypti, Aedes albopicet. So same mosquito vector causes both Zika and dengue. Same is causing the chikungunya also. Same is causing the yellow fever also. Malaria is being caused by the different vector Anopheles species of the mosquito. West Nile is being caused by Culex, and same vector is causing the Japanese encephalitis. Similarly, other diseases are also being caused by these mosquito vectors. Along with that, if you talk about these important diseases and their causative agents, so malaria is being caused by the plasmodium, dengue fever is caused by virus, encephalitis is caused by virus, African sleeping sickness is being caused by trypanosomos, dysentery is caused by protozoa, cholera is caused by vibrio cholerae. The vector here is the housefly. Housefly is the vector for dysentery and cholera. And this dysentery cholera is mainly infected, or the method of the infection for this is the contamination of the food. So mosquito is one of the important vector for various life-threatening disease for humans. Our next topic is Satpura Tiger Reserve. The context is that allegedly there is a female tiger which is poisoned to death near the Satpura Tiger Reserve, and 5 people are arrested. This is related to your GS paper 3, conservation, environmental pollution and degradation, and this has appeared in today's The Hindu, page number 11. So Satpura Tiger Reserve is located in Madhya Pradesh, and it is part of the Satpura range of mountains, and it is a watershed between Narmada and Tapti basin. Sandstone peaks, gorges, dense forests, these are there in the Satpura Tiger Reserve. And there is this Bori Reserve forest which is near this Satpura Tiger Reserve. There is this Denva River, Tava River and reservoir that is near this Satpura Tiger Reserve, and it is a tiger reserve since 2000. And teak, sal, bamboo, mahua, these are the flora species. Fauna species, tigers, leopards, sloth bear, these are there. And Bori was the oldest reserve forest which is part of the Satpura Tiger Reserve, and it is also having a tiger corridor, high biodiversity, habitat connectivity, etc. And we have the other key tiger report if we see. So with regard to the 2022 report that came, and after that there has been, if you see from 2006 to 2022, there has been consistent increase in the number of tigers. India is home to over 70% of world's wild tigers, and with the conservation efforts, for example, Project Tiger that was launched in 1973, we have reached to almost 3,682 in the 2022. The states where the numbers of the tigers are very high, the Madhya Pradesh, Karnataka, Uttarakhand, these are the states having the highest number of tigers. So descending order of that can also be asked in the prelims examination. And this data is as per the 2022 tiger census. Also, in line with the conservation efforts of the government, there has been increase in the number of tiger reserves in India. Also, there was this question that was asked in 2020 with regard to the tiger reserve, which one has the largest area under the critical tiger habitat, that is your Nagarjun Sri Salam. The option C was right in this particular question that was asked in 2020 prelims examination. Our next topic is Great Indian Bustard, which is related to your GS paper 3, conservation. It is also related to your syllabus of prelims, environment and ecology. It has again appeared on in the Indian Express, page number 1. So the context is that for the first time in a decade, Gujarat saw the birth of a Great Indian Bustard chick, and after a trans-state conservation effort has been done. So what is this Great Indian Bustard? It is the heaviest flying bird on the planet. It is the state bird of Rajasthan, and the habitat of this Great Indian Bustard consists of large landscape of dry grassland, which is the suitable habitat for Great Indian Bustard. And these are the largest among the 4 bustard species that are found in India. Under the IUCN, it is stated as the critically endangered. Under CITES, it comes under Appendix 1, and under the under the Wildlife Protection Act of 1972, it comes under the Schedule 1, providing the highest protection. And it is facing threat with the overhead power lines that are there. They are striking with them, and that is leading to death. And in India, they are found in Rajasthan, Gujarat, Maharashtra, as well as in Karnataka. They have a height of around 100 centimeter to 1 meter, 15 to 80 kilogram of weight, and it is one of the flagship grassland species of India. That is all from today's Analyst. Thank you very much. All the very best. Keep studying.